Hi everyone, it's Leah with Family Heritage Living. I was reading an article today and thought I'd share it with you. It's memories of a man about his grandmother's house in the early 1800s. And he says, that rollicking song about traveling over the river and through the woods to pay a visit to Grandma was very appropriate in the good old days. Whether she was prepared to receive guests who arrived on short notice wasn't reported, but it can be presumed on good authority that she had all kinds of goodies in her cupboard the year round. What a treat it would be to the present younger generation. If ever there was a time when Grandma's larder was filled to the bulging point, it was right after the holidays. In her basement, they called it a cellar, there would be rows and rows of shelves lined on which, in perfect order, would be jars, glasses, and even crocks of jams, jellies, preserves, fruit, plus veggies that had been harvested in the barnyard garden. From the wood, there would be sacks and baskets of hickory nuts, walnuts, butternuts, hazelnuts, and many other tasty items. In large bins, kept cool by the air from Mother Nature's storage system, would be apples, potatoes, turnip, onions, parsnips, cabbages, carrots, beans, and a variety of herbs in seed and leaf form still clinging to the stems of plants which they grew. The herbs added special taste and flavor to the cooking products. Grandma's visitors usually arrived in bobsleds or sleighs in winter. The lively jingle of bells were heard across the hills and dales long before the vehicle were in sight. Soon, horses would be pawing the snow and ice in the driveway, keyed to a high pitch of energy by the stimulation of the cold air. The guests needed no warming up exercise as they climbed down from under robes and blankets, which overlaid a deeper layer of straw, which still held the smell of the fields it had acquired during the late summer threshing process. Always there was much to see on visits to Grandma's house. Things new and different had been added between visits. It might have been newborn kittens which made their homes with their mother in the barns, growing fat on fresh, warm milk poured out for them in the shallow pans. Perhaps Grandma had changed the pattern of wallpaper in the kitchen or upstairs room, or she may have done some refinishing of furniture, or had made quilts with unusual patterns from pieces collected over the years as remnants of material for house dresses, aprons, blouses, and shirts necessary to fill the needs of the family. Trading of pieces for quilts went on between neighbors in the early days, adding unusual touches so that the word crazy was most appropriate in association with quilts and coverlets on upstairs beds. The little visitors enjoyed inspecting the wonders of the parlor, despite their chill remained by large doors which rolled open and shut on special occasions. Most people called them front rooms. Youngsters found pleasure in viewing pictures through the double lens of stereoscopes. They told scenic stories about such places in Niagara Falls, Yellowstone Park, buildings in Washington, resorts on rivers, lakes and oceans, and plants and flowers of rare beauty. Also in the parlor on a shelf of the corner whatnot would be a conch shell, which when held to the ear produced a sound resembling the roar of waves that seemed to be part of the beautiful pearled residence of the mollusk from the briny depths of the sea. When everything had been looked over and Grandma had explained the outstanding qualities of each, there would be a call to the kitchen where a sheet-like covering was being removed from a large table on which dishes and silverware had been placed after a previous meal. Even though the table fairly groaned with the weight of the bountiful repast, there seemed to be no appreciable shrinkage of the cellar contents when viewed by the younger guest as they assisted in carrying containers of food to be replaced in neat rows on the shelves. After luncheon, there would be a hasty departure to a small ice-covered pond not far from Grandma's house. Skating was the attraction. Perhaps it would mark the first venture of ice for some youngster, but with the help of others, they soon learned the straight ankles and level blades were necessary to mastery of the art of gliding on the mirror-like surface. Truly, winter had pleasures which no other season offered. Rides on bobsleds and gliding in moonlight over the crystalline surface of frozen water were unforgettable. That set me to thinking about my own grandparents. They owned a farm down in Indiana, and they acquired the farm in the 30s, and they sold it mid-70s. Now, my visits to my grandparents did not resemble this at all. even though it seems like a lifetime ago. But they were, older farmers, and he raised pigs and milk cows and worked the fields. And I can remember cousins and siblings trying to ride those pigs. I would have been too young, but there was an old weeping willow tree in the yard of my grandmother's that it was huge. It seemed to engulf the entire yard, and she had irises coming up the lane. The lane was probably about a quarter mile long, and we've been by it a few times over the years, and pretty much it still looks the same, but I've never ridden in a bobsled. I think that would be really neat to hear the jingle jingle. We live in the middle of nowhere, and yet we're engulfed by the sounds of cars going down what is about the only main road in the area. If you have a memory of your grandparent that you would like to share, please comment below. And we've had a lot of great comments, a lot of great interaction with the comments, spurring a lot of memories for people, or giving people a picture of something that maybe they can't acquire that particular complete particular lifestyle, but they can do things that can add to a lifestyle similar to that. I have vowed that we're going to take some of our goats and train them into cart goats. And we will have to, each of us will have to have our own cart, but we're going to end up with a sled one of these days and having a bunch of goats pull it. So, all right, well, until next time, God bless. Real pretty.